Let's look at the last chart in this topic, the pie chart. In the design panel, we'll head over to the component palette, we'll grab a new pie chart, and drag and drop it down onto a report. Next, we need to set a data key. I have this fruit data in the key browser here. It has two columns. It has fruit and quantity. So we'll begin by dragging and dropping fruit down to the data key. And then we need to specify a label key and a value key. The label key determines what shows up in the legend. So in this case, we'd want to set the label key to our fruit. So I'll drag and drop fruit down to the label key. And then the value key is the corresponding value for that row. In this case, we're going to want to use quantity. So I'm going to drag and drop quantity from our key browser down to our value key. Like the other charts, we can select a segment color, but I'll leave these alone for now. And let's take a look at the preview panel to see what our chart looks like. So we very quickly created a simple pie chart. Now let's take a look at some of the properties on the pie chart. Head back to the design panel. We'll select our chart and click on the Properties tab in the Property Inspector. You'll see the first three properties are keys that we just set, so if we needed to change them, we could do that from either the Property tab or the Configure tab. And if you look down a little bit more, you'll see there's this Label Style property. Now it's set to none by default, but we can change that to Simple. Simple shows a label on each wedge of the pie, whereas Outset shows that label outside of the pie. The text in these labels is determined by the Label Format property. If we show the details for this property, you'll see an explanation of what exactly these numbers mean. 0 is the wedge name, or in this case, whatever the row our label key is showing us. 1 is the value for that row. And then 2 is a percentage of the overall value. So if we take a look at this in the preview panel, you see that oranges equals 45, or 17% of the total amount of fruit. Now let's make some changes to the text on the label. We'll go back to the design panel. We'll select our chart, go back to Properties, and I have a label format already set. I'm just going to paste that in. I want to say the wedge name makes up whatever percentage of all fruit. Hit Enter to confirm that. And we see the labels on our chart updated. Let's take a look at our new label in the preview panel. There we are, looks good. We'll head back to the design panel, select our pie chart, go back to Properties. So you can see we can put whatever text we want into those labels. Next, if we scroll down a little bit further in the Property Inspector, you'll see that we can show or hide our legend, as well as change the font up here. I'm going to leave that alone for right now though. We'll go down a little further, you'll see there's a Styles property. We can change this to a 3D pie. Alternatively, we can make it a ring if we'd like instead. Put that back to pie. Below that are the basic properties that you see on many of the other components. So height, width, scale, is it visible, and so on. And last is the stroke and fill. Stroke is grayed out by default, but if you change the stroke style from hidden to, we'll say double, you'll see there's a border added to our chart. And we can expand the stroke property here. We can change the color of the border, the positioning, separation, and so on.